Hello and welcome to the Big Money Stylist podcast. It's Friday and we did our hair.
Woo! My hair's not clean, but it looks good.
You know, it's so funny. I swear, because we've been recording these on Fridays, and like I always come in, I'm like I'm in a baseball cap balancing my baby, and your hair's in a floppy bun, and
I know. I feel like I'm never gonna live that bun down. Ooh, I like your sunnies. Is this a bad time to say how much I like?
I know.
Sorry, I just looked down and saw sunglasses. I'm like, oh,
if you guys go to bigmoneystylistnow.com, you can see what we look like.
Danielle looks like an ornament. I look like a hobo.
I know. She's got a cute shirt. I'm like, I feel like a Christmas tree.
You look like, but a really
It's
like
cute, though.
high-end Christmas ornament.
It's fancy.
Not like a cheap one. It's really soft shirt too.
Did you just call me cheap?
I said not
just
not like a cheap one. Everyone, they're gonna be like, did you hear that Ani called Danielle cheap?
I got it at a Groupon special with buy one get one.
It was $19.
No, it's not $19.
If you want, you're like, wait, you're like, no, it was, I don't know what it was, but you're like, please, not $19.
It's Ula Johnson. If you like my top, it's Ula Johnson. Okay, today's topic, Ani, what's our topic today? We're
going to talk about hamster wheels, circles, and what are you actually putting your time into?
The false loop. Yes, the false loop. I like it. I actually did a post on my Instagram yesterday, and I was like, you're just not there yet, with the emoji lady with like holding her hands up like
shrugging.
This, like, and it kind of, I love that. I love that emoji because it's kind of like, I feel like an asshole, but it's like, you're just not there yet. And so anyways, the point of being not there yet is I think that oftentimes, and we hear this a lot inside of our student base, is like people are worrying about 10 steps ahead of them.
Yes.
So they're asking us how to solve questions on, you know, you said it best when you were like, they're asking like, what do I do if I have an assistant who does this and this and this and this? And we're like,
they're like, well, what do I do if I have an assistant and then I train my assistant and then my assistant leaves? I'm like, well, are you at a place where you have an assistant? No. Are you looking for one? No. Why are you thinking about firing a fucking assistant if you don't even have one?
Your first question should always be, how do I go about hiring an assistant? You should not be thinking about already firing an assistant.
What happens if they leave me? Well, then I don't know.
Chain them to your bed.
Oh, dear.
Oh, wait.
Hey, some
Wrong
people
show.
are into that.
Don't chain them to your bed.
We'll talk about this in our next podcast called Beds and Chains, and that's all we're talking about. So, but do you know what's so crazy? Something you had said earlier, you're like, because people, oh my gosh, the excuse I'm too busy is, first off, I don't like that phrase. I don't even like the word busy because I don't aspire to be busy.
No.
I want to be productive. I want to be inventive. I want to be calm most days.
I want to be somewhat balanced.
Yeah, I want to be balanced. But when I hate when people are like, how's your day? I'm busy. Well, okay. Can you be anything else?
Well, here's the thing too, is like a lot of times specifically with artists working behind the chair is we'll teach them a lot of fundamentals of like something easy as daily four. Now, daily four is just a way of communicating a message to the marketplace. Where like you just do it every day you get better, and every day momentum picks up and you start to have clients. Well, the story is like, oh my God, well, I was behind the chair till like, I ended up going till like 10 o'clock at night. Fun fact, stylists actually do work till like 10 o'clock at night.
You know, one of our artists one time worked till 2 a.m.
I mean, we've all been, I think I've worked till midnight a few times.
Ew,
I'm not gonna lie.
I don't think I ever hated myself that much. I'm not doing that.
No, it's like shit went sideways. And I remember I like had like a color correction and I was like, this girl's legit gonna sue me if I don't fix this shit. I mean,
fuck.
It was like in the beginning of my career and I was like, it's cool, we'll get Red Bulls. And literally I was just like,
I'll order us dinner.
Like
That's fine.
now if shit like that happens, you're kind of like, hey, we're going to call it a day. We're going to revisit this appointment tomorrow or whatever. But, you know, we've all been there. And fun fact, stylists do work like serious, crazy late hours. And so what's hard is when we're teaching our students, you know, simple marketing tactics, they go home and they're like, I literally have to put kids in bed. I just want to brush my teeth. And
I have to start laundry. I have to make dinner. I have to get lunches ready.
And they're like, I don't have time to worry about, you know, this daily four thing that we're doing. And I'm like, you don't have time not to worry about the daily four.
Well, and here's what's so crazy. Like, I understand, like, when you have children, like, yes, you have to take care of them. But I also find that when artists are like, you don't get it. I'm too busy. I have so much to do. They're actually filling their time with shit that doesn't fucking matter. Girl, you have been sitting on Instagram for the past 30 minutes. You've been shopping the 20 minutes before that. We're at 50 minutes now where you could have done something that made you money, not something that just took up your time.
Well, and I think that there's these, like for me, I like to have at least like a little bit of downtime at night. You know what I mean? Where I can if I want to shop or scroll through a little bit where I'm like, I don't want to create any content. I just kind of want to like numb out for like half a second. Maybe I have a half a glass of red wine, turns into 2, whatever.
Turns into 5. No, I'm kidding.
I draw the line at 2.
It doesn't happen.
But I'm just saying, like, there's always more time that you can create. And I want to talk to you about something called the false loop. So a lot of times in life, and I think of it as like a hamster wheel, like we're moving so fast that the idea of like trying to cram more into our lives is unattainable. Like you can't even fathom it. We're like literally you're almost feel like you're sinking. You're like, I can barely maintain what I have now. And so what happens is a lot of times we'll be running on this busy loop, and we want to feel that high. We want to feel that productiveness. And so sometimes we actually go to a whole nother level of where we drop down, whether it's in business, emotionally, relationships, whatever it is. It's almost like we self-sabotage because we want to feel like we're growing and learning. And what happens is we self-sabotage to get below what we're currently at, and then pick ourselves back up. Maybe you listen to your favorite book, or you go to your favorite event, or you whatever it is, and you're like, oh, I got that high again. I'm progressing. You're not progressing. That's what I like to refer to as a false loop, and you're actually self-sabotaging. So let that sink in for a second, what we're talking about. Because how many of you guys are doing that? I've done it multiple times in my life.
Yes.
And I get to this point where I believe it happens in every area of our life, like whether it's business, relationships, anything. And I get to this place sometimes where I'm like, I start to recognize like the self-sabotage or that loop, and now I'm like, oh my God. And I think we're kind of like scared of the unknown. You know what I mean?
Oh, yes.
But we still want that high. Am I making sense? Like we still want that growth high. So we literally drop down and go back up, and you haven't progressed in life. You haven't progressed in business. You did nothing.
Well, and then something I've also realized inside of that, when people start to like, well, I'm too busy. I don't have time for this. I don't have time for that. We do start to cut things out of our lives, which yes, you do have to do sometimes for sure. Right. Like things that are not vital, things that aren't important. But what I've noticed is what people tend to cut are actually the things that would help them get out of that stage in their life. Like, for example, you said it perfectly, Daily 4. Guys, Daily 4 is literally just marketing. It's what we've named it inside of our program, 4 things that the artists need to do every day. It can be done in 20 minutes. It's so easy. But then some artists are like, well, I don't have time for this, so I'm just not going to do it. But then all of a sudden, they're stuck with the same clients that they don't like, working the same shitty fucking hours, too many days. They still don't see their family because the things they start cutting are the things that would actually help them to move past this.
Right. And I'm going to nail in another little thing for you guys. So Ani and I are a little feisty because we just got done filming some sales videos.
Right?
And so
I took someo's chicken literally off their plate as I was walking into work.
Oh my God.
It was a team member. It wasn't a stranger.
I was like, where? What guy?
Daniel's Benarski's.
But I think it's important to recognize when you're in that loop with things. And just kind of going back to when people say like, I don't have time. I'm so busy. I think it's, again, just kind of scared of that unknown. And honestly, like you said, it's like you feel like I don't want to sacrifice any kind of income. I can't take away time from like people that are giving me direct money. And I'll tell you guys, one of the things that I think women or people in general do is we all think we're like people pleasers, but I want you to consider that you're not a people pleaser. You're actually a conflict avoider. And so something where you're like, well, I don't need more business. I'm already like fully booked. That's not my problem. I'm overbooked. Well, guess what? You might have to, if you have more marketing, you can attract a new set of clients and up your game as a stylist. And you might have to have that uncomfortable confrontation or that conversation with clients that you don't genuinely want to work with. Well, and so what they're doing is it's almost like they're avoiding confrontation. Like, but I love Sally, but she does bring a lot of baggage and she pays me.
Also, I feel like part of it is they're like, because we get in this state that's almost like, well, I guess it just doesn't get better than this, because especially as stylists, the one thing they say is you want a full book. So we have a full book. You're like, nailed it, did it, check. I won. But did you actually win though? Like, are you actually making the money that you want to make? And we always we call it the impossible game, because really it seems impossible what we have here inside of BMS and NBR. Like, it's something that can't actually be achieved until you start achieving it.
Right.
So, and we've had that. There were actually people that applied to come to BMS Con 4 that when it's like, oh, what's like the one thing you want to learn about your business? Nothing. What's the one thing you would like to do? Or like, it was a question kind of like, what do you want to do? Or like, what do you need to attract your dream clientele? Nothing, period. Already have it. And I'm like, you know what? Look, don't you dare sit here and tell me your life is so fucking perfect that there's nothing that could be better. Because the minute I hear that, I'm like, here's
how I look at it, because I've been in that same place. I get it. I'm like, no, life's great. But you also have to consider that life is about growing and learning and becoming more and better. And it's this infinite thing that you can't ever say, I'm good with where I'm at. You are good with where you're at, but there's nothing wrong with aspiring to do more. So when I hear people say that, I'm like, yeah, but what if you focus on improving your balayage skills, your foil skills, your overall client experience. If you did that, would you want to charge a little more? Well, yeah. Okay. So if you had a full book of business and you decided to up your experience and invest more into your business, then in turn, would you have to charge your clients more? Well, yes. Well, then, okay. Then would you have to have a better quality of life? We've had people, and we said this in our documentary, we've had people come in who literally have doubled and tripled their income. And I'm sorry, but if you take a stylist and you double their income, that will change a life.
And we're not talking, guys, from $100 a month to $200. We're talking from $5,000 to 10
15,
grand, from
yeah.
10
Yeah.
to 20. Like I went from 4,000 a month to 20,000 in less than a year.
I mean, that if you, especially like that'll change your life.
Look, here's what we need to address now that we're talking about money, because I know someone's gonna be like, oh my God, Ani's telling us how much money she made. Look, this is something I'm so open and honest about, because I started off in this program as a student, and not only that, it's not to say that I'm not saying money is everything.
If you don't have a mentor that's making money, you should fire them.
Yeah, no fucking
I'm just
shit.
saying.
Yeah, I don't want a poor mentor. Like I don't aspire to be like you. No offense,
No.
like you, yes, but not like a poor mentor.
Yeah.
But not only that, fuck, what was I saying?
Sorry.
No.
I lost it.
Oh, money. I'm saying that we're not sitting here and saying like money is the key to happiness. Money is the only thing that matters. But look, money brings about a sense of peace. So fine, you don't want to look at it as money brings happiness. You don't have to, but you're full of shit, because yes, it does. When you have money, all your bills are paid. When you have money, your mortgage is paid. When you have money, you're able to like take your kids on trips. And I don't mean like trips around the world. Like you can go to the zoo and indulge and buy a $50 popcorn, because my God, food is so expensive
if
at the
you're
zoo.
you're working to provide an income. So honestly, like if you have an abundance and you're in a place in your career where you're like, oh my God, this is awesome. Then when you come home at night and you're like, oh my God, I have like 17 loads of laundry. Well, guess what? Now you produce enough where you're not just like sinking, barely like skimming the water, like trying to stay afloat. Now you have, you're out of the water. You're abundant. You're in an abundant phase where you can hire help. You could then like little things. I know it sounds crazy, but even if you're married, not married, like little things, you come home and your house is a mess. You come home and like you have a shit ton of task list things you need to do. You're just immediately drained and even that much more overwhelmed. And you've just been at the salon all day and you gave everything to your clients. Now you have to come home and maybe you have kids. Now your daughter's saying, Mom, can we read stories? Can we hang out? But you're so fucking stressed because you're like, I have 19 loads of laundry. I have to pick up the house. I got to do this X, Y, and Z.
You end up looking forward to going nowhere.
Yeah.
You don't look forward to work because your clients are fucking irritating, and then you're pissed off at them because you're like, they don't pay me enough. Which, you know what? I'm gonna come back to
Take
that
some
in a moment.
goddamn accountability.
You cannot be upset with someone for the amount of money they're giving you if that's the only amount you're asking for.
Right.
You can't be pissed at a client for not tipping. Tips. I'm gonna address that for half a second. Tips are not mandatory. It's something extra that goes on top. So if you're relying on tips to fill in the rest of your income, you are not charging enough. Because at DKW, whether a client does or, which let me say, they all tip. They're amazing.
I don't know what my tips are. I specifically tell my staff, I'm like, don't tell me, because I don't want to think of a client in any way, shape, or form.
I couldn't tell you. I can barely tell you what we charge. I'm kidding. I know what we charge, but tips, I don't know.
I don't know what people tip me.
No, I don't know. We're handed them, the styles were handed it to us in like a little tiny envelope with our name. It gets tossed in my purse. I'll find it someday. I don't even know who tipped what. But not only that, like you can't be upset with someone for when they come in or the amount that they're paying you if that's the frame you're putting forward. That's the only thing you told them. Like if you or use a relationship, for example, if you're like, okay, I just want like a date night once a month. You only go on date night once a month and you're like, can you believe my boyfriend only takes me on date night once a month? Well, it's all you fucking asked for.
Right. And again, I think it just comes down to like, maybe we don't dream big enough, or maybe we just say, this is where I'm at. I should just,
so scary.
I should just be grateful. I should just be happy with where I'm at. Yes, there is this every day. I like tell myself like, there's moments throughout the week where I'm like, God, I really like my life. I love my kids. I love where I live. Like there's this place of gratitude that's so important, but there's nothing wrong with wanting to aspire to be more. And sometimes it's uncomfortable, and sometimes you have to go through a little bit of pain in order to get there. But what's cool is once you get out of that hamster wheel, once you get out of that false loop, and once you start to actually have results in your life where you can see yourself progressing forward, whether it's financially or in a relationship or probably both, to be honest with you, you look back at that person that said, I'm fine and I'm happy, and you're like, I never, ever will go back to being that person. And that is what's so cool. And that's why it's cool to, even for me, I try to recognize when I'm in that false loop and I get so irritated. I'm like, okay, I've got to make different decisions in my life. And I always ask myself, and I think I've shared this on a ton of podcasts, like, okay, to get what I want, let's dream big for a minute. Let's just say I want to make X, Y, Z. How am I going to make that happen?
Yes.
You know, you have to actually ask yourself, what do I need to do? And it makes you look at the reality of your situation behind the chair a little bit different. You're like, shit, I gotta get rid of Sally and Sarah and Susan. I don't know why they're all S's, but
stupid. No.
but it makes you, all of a sudden you can kind of look at your life a little more logically, and you're like, here's my goal and here's now what I know I need to do. And you're willing to step into that confrontation and again address it because you're like, I want a better life for myself, my children, and what I'm doing, and I want to be happy.
Well, and it doesn't matter what stage or phase of life you're in, whether you feel like you're at the bottom and you're like intern level where you're like not even getting paid, or you're like, okay, I'm kind of like middle of the road, I'm nailing it a little, or you feel like you're at the top of the pyramid. That never ends. Even Danielle and I were having a conversation, what feels like 10 years ago, but it might have been a month ago, where we were talking about the plans for 2020 and everything that's happening with DKW Styling Academy and Mastermind and the 3 trainers we have nationwide. And we literally planned out everything for everyone except for me. And I was like, so Danielle, I'm like texting. I'm like, so, we've talked about this person, that person, this person, every aspect of the company except for me. I'm like, where do we see my role? And she's like, great. Well, talk to me. Where do you see your role going? And I sat there looking at that and I'm like,
is that when we like cried it out for...
We've cried so much, but it brought us to who we are today, and I appreciate it. But like literally sat there and I was like, oh no, this was in Boxer. So we were boxing back and forth. Well, no, I ended up crying. So I don't know if you cried on your end. I cried on my end.
Was it when I was really pregnant? Because I cried every day at that point.
I think you passed off your emotions to me because then I would end up crying. And I'm like, I'm not even pregnant. Like, why do I have so many emotions? It's sympathetic pregnancy is what it was. But it was even when you're like, well, what do you see your role as? And I sat there and I'm like, okay, well, I'm like, Danielle, like, aiming high, I'm like, this is what I want. Like, this is where I see my role. If you were to leave it up to me, this is what I would do. And you text me back immediately and you're like, great, that's what I saw too. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, oh my God. The big thing that seemed really impossible, I'm like, we were literally on the same page and had no idea. So sometimes the things that even seem big and scary when they're inside of your head,
right?
Once you say it to a friend, then you're like, as it turns out, it's not that scary.
Well, and I know this sounds cheesy, but I've said it before. I'm like, the only person that gets in your way of achieving more in life is you. Like, we operate on the stories we tell ourselves and the place we allow ourselves to be in. And I'm not saying that, like, you're not unhappy. Like, every phase of my life, even when I look back when Garrett and I were struggling, it's not that I was super miserable. I had so many moments where I was like, this is awesome. Again, love my family, love my kids, love where we live, like, love everything. But I always, like, aspired to do more and be more. And that's why, I've been able to get to where I am in life. That's where you've been able to get to where you are in life. And so I think it's important. And the message I want to get across on this podcast today is, number one, stop trying to solve problems that you're not quite there yet, because I believe that actually holds us back in life and in business. Like we were sharing at the beginning of the show, the example of like hiring something as simple as an assistant. Like, you're not quite there yet. Or you're like, how do I run Facebook ads and what are pixels? I'm like, do you have an application? Well, no. Do you take before and afters? Well, not yet, but I'm going to. Okay, well, let's not think that far. You know what I mean? It's like I understand that is what I have in my business and in place, but let's just start with, I want you to start taking before and afters. I want you to start doing daily before. I want you to start doing live videos and focus on a call to action. It's crazy how many people don't do a call to action. That's like one of the first things we teach. I'm like, listen, at the end of your video, have you ever watched YouTube? And they're like, go ahead and subscribe. I'm
Click
like,
the button, do this, do that.
Yeah, I'm like, that's called a call to action. You want to give them value or give them content and then direct them to either follow you, direct them to make an appointment, direct them to
tell them to do something.
Tell them to do something.
Here's what I want you to do.
They just watched a 15-minute video. Please tell them to do something.
Yes. And I feel coming into this and inside of success and false loops and all of that, you really do have to have a certain amount of self-awareness. And that's not something that's found easily.
Right.
Because it takes really being honest with yourself. And this is something I've said that, like, I don't think I'm not a sensitive person. Am I an emotional person? I actually think I'm a very emotional person, but I'm not sensitive. But inside of that, yeah, like, you can say pretty much whatever to me. You're not going to make me burst into tears because really I'm like, well, that was great. Well, fuck you. Don't care. And I move on.
I don't know what I am.
I think you are not sensitive, but you're very emotional.
I'm very
You and I are very similar. That's why sometimes we're like, oh yeah, oh well, and
we make up stories. Oni hates me.
Danielle doesn't like me. Like we can go back and forth because neither, and I feel something that you and I have, we're both very strong women, very powerful women. Like we can compartmentalize so well.
I would like to say we're emotional robots.
Only when it's necessary and it needs to be. But inside of that, I also feel I'm a very, very, very self-aware person. Like there have even been times where like the guy I'm dating, I'll be like, look, I'm upset with you over this thing. I'm also aware that I'm being unfair and I actually shouldn't be mad. So I need a minute of I need to be by myself to process and get over it because I'm being over dramatic. I have no problem admitting it and saying that because I can take myself out of my like feelings, look at it from the outside in and be like, okay, if you weren't in this like attached emotionally, would you be upset? No. All right, then you're overreacting. That's unfair. Fucking reel it in.
Right.
But let me tell you, I'm almost 30 and that's taken pretty much all 30 years to really be able to get here.
I think I'm emotional, but I think what I do is I literally, to cope with my own emotionalness, I have to go into this logical sense where I like put myself in other people's shoes. And I'm like, well, okay, well, why would they be experiencing? And that's how I cope with life is I'm literally like, well, have I made up this story? Let me think from their side of the story why this is happening. So that's kind of helps me cope with my own emotion. You know what? It's not emotion. I would say I'm a passionate person. I feel like
passion is emotion.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah. And I'm not saying, here's the deal. I'm not saying emotions are bad.
Right.
Because emotion scales everything from happy and stoked and passionate and joyful and grateful to like upset and hurt.
Right.
You know, like emotions they have such a wide variety, but I feel you and we are not sensitive. Like,
yeah, that's true.
Fuck no. Neither one of, and I feel because we're not sensitive and the position we're in and being public eye enough that we have learned to build walls to be like, that's great. You can throw that at me. I don't really give a shit.
Listen, smiley face frog. I'm going to block and delete you because I don't give a fuck. Garrett calls it zero fucks given. He's like, you know what? Your superpower is you have zero fucks given. How do you do that? I'm like, babe, like I have to do that. Like I have to go get to a place in life and business where I'm like, what you said doesn't impact me, and here's what I'm going to do.
And here's where I'm going.
And here's where I'm going, and you're welcome to be a part of this.
But that is also a part of being, and I don't know if you see this, but because I'm the same way, I can take emotion out of something, put it in a little box, and be like, that's great to feel it, but logically, what's happening right now? And I feel you're the same way, and I feel it is kind of a superpower to be able to do because if you can't take the raw emotion out of something, especially if it's hurt or upset or you feel betrayed or if it's anything on the negative aspect, even like anger, if you can't figure out a way to like go through that pool but take that emotion, put it to the side and be like, here's the problem we're actually dealing with.
Right, then you can't solve anything.
Yeah, because I know times where I've been like highly, highly emotional and like I literally couldn't take myself out of it. Everything spiraled 10 times worse.
Right.
It got way worse until I'm like, okay, how, and just like you said, where's the other person at? Okay, am I acting like a total dick? And there were days where I'm like, yeah, you're being a real fucking dick today. Okay, reel it back in. You for sure need to apologize.
Is that when you recall your messages on Voxer?
It used to be.
We use this, have you guys heard of Voxer? I'm sure you have, but I actually use it as a business communication tool. And funny fact, I couldn't figure out you can recall a message. It's like a voice.
Only if it's the pro version.
Yes. And I'm like sitting here. I'm like, why can everybody, I like to think out loud. So I'll be like in the middle of a Voxer. I'm like, this is going nowhere. Good talk. Bye. And then you had started recalling messages. And I was like, how are you recalling messages? You're like, you have to pay for the pro version, Danielle. And I was
goddamn right I did.
I was like, how much is it? I don't know if I want to invest.
I think it's like $20 a year. I'm like, I'll invest $20 to take my thoughts back. There's one team member, our CFO knows. Normally, if I recall a message, it's just because I was in the heat of emotion and I was responding in like emotion. And then I'm like, I say it. And for me, it's the minute I say it, it's gone. And then I'm like, okay, you should probably recall that message. Don't. So it's worse. It's really bad when they listen live because you can listen live as someone speaks. And then you're like, fuck.
And then you're like, I got to finish my sentence.
Your work wife was upset today. My bad.
I feel like we're getting off track.
We absolutely are.
What is our topic on?
The topic is the false loop.
The false loop.
Yes, but also being self-aware and realizing, so we're really not off topic. It's being aware and self-aware enough to realize when it is you're doing that to yourself.
Right.
Or you know what? If you feel like you have a hard time with yourself, you have to find yourself a buddy and an accountability partner who will be like, you're fucking shit up. Stop it. Like you and I the other day, you're like, we're accountability buddies because we'll easily look at each other and be like, don't do that. You should probably stop. You should probably not say that.
Well, and for me too, like I feel like it's so important to have an accountability that's not your like spouse or partner.
Never let it be
Because you
your
know what?
spouse.
Before, my accountability partner was Garrett.
But then you're like, you didn't fucking take the trash out again.
And then I was always irritated at him. I want to read that book,
The Energy Bus.
The Energy Bus.
Guys, I don't know who the author is, but it's a book called The Energy Bus. It's a
I
yellow
listened
book.
to the preview and I was like, oh, I got to get that.
It's really good. Also, an app you would like is called Blinkist, Blink.
Blinkist?
Blinkist, like the word blink with IST at the end. They take books like The Energy Bus or like all of those nonfiction books.
Okay.
And they bring it down to 15 minutes. A person basically summarizes it for you.
You know what you would like?
Tell me you wouldn't like that, though.
No, that is.
It's actually
That's a
super
real
dope.
thing?
Yeah, Blinkist. I even have the app on my phone.
Blinkist.
Yeah, so then they bring it down to about 10 chapters. It's 15 minutes only, and you can read through what they're saying with them, or you can just listen to it in audio form.
Sweet.
It's actually really cool. But guys, The Energy Bus is such a phenomenal book, even as I read it. And what I think is cool is because a lot of self-help books are like, so step one, Danielle, what I need you to do is do this. And halfway through, I'm like, fuck you and fuck your opinions. You don't know. I don't do well with that.
You're a D-bag, so
I'm like, yeah, I'm
reel
like,
in.
fuck
Just
off. That's great. But this one is told through a story of, it's not a real story, but it's a story of this man. And
I heard that.
oh, and that got me in because you try to teach me something, I'll retain it. But
Yeah.
you teach
Like
me
in a
inside
story.
of a story.
Yeah,
Ooh,
totally.
I'll remember
I'm excited to
forever.
listen to that one. I just downloaded it today and I listened to like the first like 10 minutes and I was laughing because how him and his wife are like bantering back and forth about
Yes.
his car and his flat tire.
The car's you can't take the car because I need it. Well, I need it too. Well, it's my car and I
Yeah.
take the kids to school. Yeah, there was a lot. I was like, oh man, I bet that is reality for a lot of people. But really, go listen, read the book, The Energy Bus, and I feel like you and we do read or listen to a lot of books like that because it does help you become more self-aware.
Yeah. I like that you're saying that self-aware. I've never really thought about it, but it's like we always say like be able to give yourself feedback. Like even if it's something as simple as like your craft inside of doing hair.
Mm-hmm.
Like in order to progress and get off the hamster wheel of like what you can actually do as an artist, you have to be very self-aware and be able to give yourself feedback on your work. I think it's so interesting because like a lot of times it's almost like we have our blinders on when we look at our art
Yes.
because our art is so personal and we're like, oh my God, no. We're like, it's amazing. I don't need to improve. I'm the best artist there is. But if you can learn to literally constructively look at yourself and be like, ooh, you know what? I think I'd fine tune this piece or I'd make this piece blonder or you know what? I want to do this. And so it's important to even give yourself feedback and be self-aware with your art so that you can progress and become a better artist.
Feedback and being self-aware, I think are the two biggest things that can help you move forward.
And nobody likes to know it all. Like the minute somebody steps into my salon and they think they're done learning, guess what? They don't work at my salon anymore because there's no such thing. I'm the owner and I created a pretty large brand at this point, and I never assume I know it all. And I'm never threatened or I'm never okay not sharing that. I'm like, hey, what color formula is that? Oh my God, that's an amazing cut. Like I'm always hungry and looking to learn and grow, even as where I'm at with my career and in life. And I think that that's key to life is like once you get to the place where you feel like you know it all, I feel like you're actually probably very unhappy.
Well, and not only that, and we'll take my position. I train every single student that comes in. Now I train every trainer. Like, my hands are everywhere when it comes to training people, but I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I know everything.
Right.
You can't teach me anything. I think anyone can teach anyone. Even if it's something you know, but they say it differently, you still learn something new.
I know. I liked it our last quarterly. We actually, for my mastermind students, which will be DKW Styling Academy, I'll tell you guys at the end of this show today. For my mastermind, we have quarterly events. And this last quarterly event, we broke off into
pods, breakout sessions.
Breakout sessions. And it was so funny. I taught 2 of them, but I actually just walked around and listened to my trainers. And I was like, holy shit, that's awesome. I'm like, we need to implement that at my salon.
Yeah.
So it's like you're always like learning new things. You know what I mean? And it's not being like, well, that's cool that that's how you do it, but I have my own system and it's the best. No, I'm like, that's an awesome idea. I'd love to implement that. And that's how we kind of learn and grow. I know we're getting ready like to close. And so I actually wanted to talk a little bit about, for those of you that are students, or maybe you're just hearing this podcast and you're like, what is this? So I created a hair extension method called Natural Beauty Rose, or MBR. This last year, we only held one large class for the public. We did small intensive classes for our mastermind students, but we only held one large convention with over 300 stylists coming in November. And we had to close the tickets kind of early because we did 6 months of pre-training. So people were like, oh my God, I missed my opportunity. It's not until November. I'm like, yeah, I'm not all about the one class and done thing. I put a ton of energy inside of my trainings to make sure that the skill and the tool that I'm giving to my stylists, they actually can take home and use, because I know how much it's done for me and my career, and I actually want you guys to have the same success. So this last year, we only had the one class, and next year we're actually opening up nationwide classes. Because like I have people all the time email me, DM me. They're like, "Can you host a salon? Can you
come to my salon?
Yeah, can you come? I have 15 stylists that want to learn. Or hey, do you have any classes out here? Or do you have any here? Can you travel here?" And I'm like, no. And honestly, this last year, the reason we closed it down and we only did the one class is because Ani and I were training our little asses off. We created a Natural Beauty Rose manual. We also were training 3 other educators that are going to help us educate nationwide next year, because I can't do it alone. When I first launched my brand, I wanted to shoot my foot
I can't even do it alone, and I can handle quite a bit, but damn.
Well, and this last year, you took on a lot of the weight because I was pregnant and everything that was going on. And then as we started to train more people, I'm starting to feel like, I can breathe. But I wasn't just going to be like, you can train and you can train and you can train and
everybody's a trainer.
You're a trainer. And so
how do you put Oprah and Danielle together?
I don't know. Dopra?
Dopra! You're Dopra!
Dopra. You're welcome. No. But anyways, going back to not being Dopra, I didn't feel good about putting my name on just anybody to go out and teach what took me over like a decade to learn and perfect. So anyways, stop laughing about Dopra.
Dopra, you're never living this down.
Dopra.
Hashtag Dopra.
Dopra. I'm Dopra. I like it.
I'm all about it right now.
You're screwing up my pitch, honey.
Goddamn right I am. Yep.
All right. So nationwide classes are going to be available to the public. Again, I keep my classes intimate, about 15 people per class. We are going to start selling classes in the next couple weeks. So make sure that you're on my email list. And for past students that want back into Mastermind, it is not Mastermind. It is Mastermind, but it's now going to be called DKW Styling Academy. It's a 1.5-year program in which you graduate from. So if you want more information about that, we have so much exciting news about that, because I get people all the time, how do I get back into Mastermind? I think they don't realize like how cool the community was and how much they learned until they're off doing it on their own. And then they're like, shit, I want
so
back
much
in.
harder by yourself. And it's evolving and growing so much to literally lead them through in a 1.5-year program to be, set up and on their own.
Right. Well, and I think we talked about this, and I'll just touch base because I know we're getting ready to wrap up. But instead of just having a mastermind where it's like, hey, here's a color video, here's a root color, here's a bead fix, here's whatever, it's going to be more systematized where it's like, okay, you're in phase 1, 2, and 3. Okay, now we're going to plug you into this root smudging video. We're going to plug, because again, it goes back to the beginning of the top of our conversation. I'm like, stop asking questions that you're not ready for. So if we go into that with the academy and we're like, listen, we're going to teach you in the level that you're at, we're actually setting our students up for success. So that's why I'm so excited, because I would not teach if my kids, I wouldn't teach if my kids didn't have results. But for reals, like for me, I'm at a point in life where I'm like, I built this amazing brand and I could probably step back and chill, but I'm like, no, I get fueled by other people having results in their life. And so anything I create with my education, I'm like, guess what? Yeah, I want to make money, because as your mentor, anybody who is your mentor should be in the business of making money. And again, if they're not, fucking fire them. And the other thing is like, I want you to have results. It's true though. I have to say that. It is true, yes. I'm like, we all know the coach that makes no money. Stop paying them, and that's not going to work out.
It's like having an AA sponsor who's still drinking. Well, that doesn't really work.
It doesn't work out.
No.
So anyways, just know that next year we have some pretty amazing stuff, and I'm super stoked the direction that's going. And don't worry, if you're a past student, I have your email, and I'm going to let you know what's going on so that you guys can join us in 2020.
Yeah, so guys, thank you for being here for the Big Money Stylist podcast. If you want to see us, our mannerisms, and me ready to piss myself over Dopra, go to Big Money Stylist now.
And I have a Christmas shirt on.
And Christmas Danielle. Go to bigmoneystylistnow.com. And guys, the 100th episode is coming up soon.
What are we gonna
We popping bottles. We doing it.
What kind of bottles?
What bottle you want? I can get anything. Guys, thank you for being here, and we will see you next week.